Writing a Book Part 8, From Journaling to Writing. So, as I have been releasing this series, obviously here we are on Part 8, I have seen the comment a couple of times about someone saying something along the lines of they journal every day, but making the leap into writing, like actually trying to write something, like it just wasn't happening. And I am no expert on pretty much anything, but I can comment on this as far as my own experience goes. And that is to say, multiple things. I have multiple reflections around this. All of a sudden, it just popped into my head. I was like, "Whoa, we need to talk about some things because this question I feel like goes really deep. Um, in my in my experience, in my relationship with my journaling, my writing, like I've been journaling every day for almost 7 years. It'll be 7 years in July since I started my daily self care, and journaling is pretty much at the core of how I take care of myself. I give myself an outlet for all of the crazy shit that goes on inside of me. And so, my journaling, my daily ritual of writing whatever's inside, writing it on the page, like that has saved me in so many moments. And it's been there. It's been there really reliably for me. And over the years, like I've talked about in the other videos, like I've come up with, dude, like probably hundreds of ideas for books. Like I've got, if you look back through the pages of those journals, there's like little carrots with like book title written in there, and then like whatever book title that popped into my head. And like those book titles, it's like not 100 titles for the same book. It's like 100 different books. And so, yeah, that's just kind of the way my brain works. Like, just capturing ideas. And I've only ever tried to start writing now like a handful of books, and I've finished one and I've got another one that's like 75% of the way there. Um, and so, like, again, not an expert, but in my experience, the the writing, like I shared in that very first part of this series, like when the floodgates opened with the realization, what if it was an ebook? What if it's only 10 pages and it's not 200 pages? Like that opened something up for me personally that made doing it seem so much more approachable, like so much more reasonable to think that, like, oh yeah, 10 pages, like I can write that, like probably pretty easily. And so, like, that was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I can do this. So that was definitely part of it, was like adjusting my expectation around what even does it mean to write. Like before that moment, what it meant was if I'm going to start a book, it's like I'm expecting I'm going to write like 150, 200 pages, and you get one page in and you realize that's less than 1%. Like you're not even half a percent there yet. And it's like, oh God, it just feels so long. It was so daunting that I really couldn't do it. And so, but when you really zoom out, like from where I'm sitting right now, like of course, writing doesn't have to be 200 pages, but like I didn't know that. I wasn't operating off of that model in my mind. My belief around what writing meant was that it's 200 pages. It's going to have to come out like in, hard copy form, like not necessarily hardcover, but like a physical printed book. And so, yeah, to like have that redefinition of writing into what if it's an ebook? What if it's just electronic? What if it's just something I email to people like who want to see it? Like just write the thing. Like just do it and see what you get. And so that was that first piece of redefining writing. The other piece, one of the other pieces, is the timing, the timing of it. Like, you know, this definitely piggybacks off of redefining writing, but it's like, again, going a little bit deeper into why is it that you want to write? Why? What purpose does it serve that you write, especially for those people who journal every day? Like, why do you need to? Like, rather than saying, like, oh, it's not working, like, how do you know it's supposed to? Like, how do you know you're supposed to write if you can't write? Like, I say that because what finally tipped the scales as far as like, when I did actually sit down and write something and I finished it, that book was soul medicine that I needed. I needed that. I needed to process what went in there. I needed to organize my thoughts. I needed to crystallize my, standard operating procedures in these areas. Like, and the book I'm talking about is The Art of Truth Telling. Like, I needed to write that. I needed to write that. That's why it got written. That's what I believe. Like, now it exists and I haven't done anything with it. I haven't even tried to publish it yet. I haven't even tried to put it out there, like, other than sending it to a friend, like, hey, read this. And she was like, oh, that's great. Like, yeah, like, that's really all I've done with it. And it's like 30 pages long, like, just sitting there. Because at the end of the day, like, really, truly, I wrote it because I needed to write that. And it's so amazing how, like, when the actual moment came where the scales tipped and I got into a momentum that actually led to finishing the thing, like, the reason that I needed to write that book was because I came up with a different book idea. It just like I had been really down the rabbit hole on this subject for weeks, and it was like something really clicked into place, like just this knowledge and this understanding and this, like, my beliefs and, like, all of my, like, those moments where, like, something clicks and, like, your whole life just makes sense in this new way. And I had a moment like that, and a part of my truth was revealed to me, and in seeing it, it shut me down. Like, I felt like there's no way I can express this. And in feeling paralyzed, I wrote The Art of Truth Telling. I wrote about, what do you do when you have a hard truth that feels impossible to share? How do you process that? How, like, where do you even go? I'm paralyzed, and how do I move forward? And in the week and a half that it took me to write The Art of Truth Telling, like, I wasn't even thinking about my hard truth. Like, I was just like, it was so bizarre how it all unfolded. I didn't realize until the end what had happened. But, like, in writing The Art of Truth Telling, I metabolized the fear and the insecurity and the self-consciousness around that original truth. And in doing so, writing The Art of Truth Telling, it cleared away what was holding me back from writing the original book, writing the original piece that downloaded, that made my whole life make sense. Like, that was a powerful realization, and I couldn't do anything with it because I was so scared. And The Art of Truth Telling is what unparalyzed me. Writing that book unparalyzed me. So then I started writing the second one, and it's about 75% of the way put together. But again, I think there's probably going to be like a whole nother book that helps me work through the part where I'm paralyzed on ever showing it to anybody who's not, like, in my totally safe inner circle. Like, it still feels so risky. And so, like, great, give me another book that's going to help me metabolize the next layer of what's holding me back so that I can move forward. Like, it is, again, going back to answering that question of, why do you want to write? Why do you want to write? You journal every day. You take that time between you and you. Why is it that you need to put it into a format where other people can see it? Why do you need to write? Like, that's really my definition, probably, between journaling and writing, is like, who's looking at this? And if it's journaling, like, I rarely even go back and reread my own journaling. other than maybe like trying to find like the specifics on what happened in a certain situation or something like that, if that comes up, or like the date when it was that it happened or something. Um, but like when I think about writing, I think about this is something that I'm going to publish. Like writing is meant to be published, whereas journaling is just an exercise, you know? And so I think part of the anxiety that can stop us from writing in the first place is the anxiety around publishing. And like having that writing be seen is enough to make it so hard, like too hard to even write the thing in the first place because you don't want it to be seen that badly. So you just keep it inside yourself. And like that's the part where, maybe it's helpful to hear that, like, yeah, I finished that book like a while ago and I haven't done anything with it. I just let it sit there. It's saved on my computer. Like the art of truth telling. It's written. It exists. It hasn't done anything with its life force yet. So I'm just hanging out, doing the rest of my things and working on the other book and working on the rest of my millions of things that I have going on. Like it served its purpose so far. Like so far, it doesn't, like it doesn't even need to be published right now. Like that's really not the point. I got what I needed out of writing that book, and it helped me to move forward in the way that I wanted to move forward. And so, what if, what if you told yourself that, like, I'm not even going to publish this? Like, let me get a book first on paper, and then I'll worry about how and where and who I'm going to publish this to. Because that's a whole nother animal. Creating the thing is one thing. Showing the thing to other people and opening it up for them to judge it, for them to have opinions about it, for them to point and laugh, for them to, take it and call it the most valuable thing that's ever been made. Like that is a whole other thing than creating the thing in the first place. And I was talking to somebody else about something very similar where like they thought they didn't know about self-publishing, like self-publishing through Amazon, where you can literally upload your book and it'll put it for sale on Amazon. You tell it whatever you want it to charge. You put the cover on there. They will print it even into a physical book and send it to people who order it. Or you can upload an ebook and same thing, like it'll give access to the people who order it. And like she just didn't know that self-publishing was a thing. And so in her mind, she believed that getting published was something where you had to submit your book to like all these different publishers and they rejected it or they accepted it, and like of so few ever actually got published that it like wasn't even worth trying to write the book. Like she loved to write and she loves like the idea of writing a book, but she's like, it's never going to be published, so why even do it? And it's like, that's the kind of attitude that, again, like your ego will use to keep you out of the ocean, like telling you that, like, nobody's ever even going to see it, so why even write it? And I'm telling you, what if you took that strategy and used it on purpose? What if you told yourself, this is never going to see the light of day? Like, I have no intention, I have no plan of ever showing this work to anyone. I'm going to write it and I'm going to polish it. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to rework it. I'm going to come up with the interactive exercises. I'm going to like pose the questions. I'm going to make this book and I'm never going to show it to anybody. Like, what if the publishing part wasn't even a piece? Like, leave it out of the creative process and see what you get. And then, kind of like I talked about with my client who had like 12 blog posts written, and like she got to the point where she's sitting there looking at these 12 posts and she's like, these are really good. This has like such good encouragements. It has such good upliftment. It has such good like authenticity and vulnerability and showing like the true path that I came through and like the fruit of what pleasure and enjoyment I got out of like working on myself in this way and healing myself in this way. Like there's some really hopeful messages in these articles, and I want to share that with people. I want people to have that. Even though some people may not like it, other people are really going to get something out of this. Like there's a lot of love inside these posts, and she wanted them to be seen because they were good. And so that is so that is so different. That is such a different place to be than you have nothing written and I'm terrified of what people are going to think of this. It's like, take them out of it and you get what you need out of writing it first. And then when you have a written, finished thing that could be shared, then you are the powerful one who gets to decide what happens next. Do you want to show it to anybody? Do you not want to show it to anybody? Do you want to delete the file off your computer like it never happened, like you got what you needed? Do you want to let it sit there for 20 years and then publish it? It's yours. Your creation belongs to you. And how you choose to reveal it is only an extension of that original creative process, and the timing of the release and the method of the release is yours. I mean, you get to decide. You get to decide who lays eyes on your work and when, until you release it to the public and it's everybody. So that doesn't have to be a foregone conclusion. And if you can pinpoint, like if, especially if that's where the anxiety is coming from, is the thought of showing your work to somebody else, then just take it off the table. This work does not have to be shown to anybody else. I have veto power. I will not release this work until I am fully in love with it and want to give it as a gift to this world. And if that moment never comes, then this will be one of the works that doesn't get released. And I'm okay with that, because every time I write, it heals me. There's something in that process for the writer that has nothing to do with anybody else ever seeing that work. I do hope this has been helpful, my dear friend. I'm honored that you're here. I would love to hear your questions. I'm happy to weigh in however I can. Until next time, you take such good care of yourself, and so will I.